Do I remember my first race? No, no. I remember some races getting beat when I was a kid. Didn't last too long, but yeah, it was on PW50s, Dade City, Florida, back in the day. So that's probably the earliest memory I had around a motorcycle or racing. Well, I think as like any kids growing up, like you always dream of being, whatever sports you do, you always dream of being like at the top. But to say like I was to have like where I am championships and all the accolades and where I am in the sport, I don't really think I could ever, even if I ever dream it, it wouldn't be as big as of what I've done. So no. Probably the most proudest or biggest championship I won, the one that probably is dearest to me, it was probably in 2009. That year I got knocked out in the first race with Chad Reed, and then being 25 points down and coming back and all the up and downs with that season, being on a different team, on his old team, struggling and being in part of the year with the bike and coming down and basically winning the title with 4 points. So that was probably the toughest championship I ever had. That's my best one, I would say. Uh, did I enjoy those battles with Chad and Ricky? Probably now that I'm done racing, I look back on all that stuff and always go like that was pretty cool. But as I enjoyed racing Ricky, but me and Chad, we was on a not so much the local Starbucks friendship kind of level. So I didn't really enjoy racing with him. He was a good competitor, tough, but to say I enjoyed it I'd be lying if I said that. Probably my favorite come from behind win was Toronto 2014. I've had a few different ones, but I think that was probably the one I watch on YouTube a lot. My little boy says "Dada" when he sees me on that, so that was a good race. Didn't really feel like I was trying that hard. Things just happening, and so I'd say that one, and I'm gonna throw another one in 2007 Indianapolis. That was another come from behind win that was pretty spectacular. Maybe even better than Toronto, but they both were good. Well, it's interesting. Like the two different races, I came from dead last essentially to win both of those, but my thought process was completely different. 2007, like there was no other thought besides winning. Second place wasn't good. Nobody celebrated second place. Podiums were bad. So it was always about winning at that time. And then 2014, I think after the struggles of a couple years on some different teams and then slowly building back up to where I thought my level should have been at the whole time, I think you enjoyed the process more. So coming up through the pack, and I think I enjoyed the race in Toronto in 2014. I enjoyed racing more during that time. So just the thought process, even though the victories, they were the same, the thought process was completely different. I just felt like I had to win in 2007. I thought it'd be nice to win in 2014, and they were both good. Yeah, Daytona Supercross. Every year, I always looked at the track. Always tore down. I felt like, the same thing in Toronto. Track tore down. Mud races, any race that was really technical, I felt like I had an advantage. Coming up with creative lines. Always used to like racing in Seattle because of that, the ruts and all that. So with Daytona, it was always something, breaking bumps, jumping over things. Always look forward to that. But to be honest, I hated Daytona. Like I hated racing there. I couldn't see a lot. I don't know if I got bad eyes, but the lighting wasn't that good. But the thing that I enjoyed about it was being so close to the fans and hometown race. Hairdressers, old teachers, everybody was there, so it was cool going down the finish line stretch and have everybody cheer for you. But as far as racing, I did not enjoy racing. Yeah, and I think it was 2011, the wall jump at Daytona. I don't know why I jumped it. I don't know what prompted me to jump it. I wouldn't jump it now. I wouldn't do a lot of things now. But that's just me. I don't know who that guy was back then. But yeah, I knew I could do it, but it was all commitment level. Like there was no room to come up short. 99%, I would have been over the handlebars. So I think I enjoyed like doing it because of that. But why I did it, I don't know. I mean, I would have won the race, which I didn't anyway. I would have won the race not jumping it, but the crowd liked it, so just kept doing it. Yeah, it's stewable. That's what they used to call it, stewable. Yeah, anything was stewable. Like I was, walking track walk, and then you had, yeah, like have Chad Reed like said, and people like, oh man, I wouldn't jump that, but it's stewable, So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I always just jump stuff. And it was, give you a little secret, I was quads and rhythm section jumps, like the wall jump, that didn't scare me. Like none of that scared me. It was double and triples freaked me out. Like jumping triples period freaked me out. I used to always go practice and tell Renee, my mechanic, like, man, this triple looks bigger than last week. And he's like, oh, it's just you. So triples freaked me out, but quads, whatever. Yeah, the Bubba Scrub, it's obviously known now. It's cool to see like all the kids, and it's kind of like with everything in sports, like they evolve. Like athletes are bigger, bikes are better. People have training and stuff. It's just a lot. Everything's changed, and I like to feel like I was a part of that. Like now, every kid scrubs, and it's cool to watch TV and like know like that was me. Like I started that per se, and some of the older guys say they try to like they used to do it back in the day, but one leg out ain't scrubbing. But anyways, we won't go to that point. But yeah, I remember doing it in 2002 Anaheim 3, and I crashed in the first corner, and I scrubbed over the triple, and I think the crowd thought I whipped it. So I was actually doing it in 2002 all year, and then there was the one race I came back in 03 at Budds Creek, and was coming up through the pack, and David Bailey caught it on TV, and he was like, oh, I don't even know what I saw. And so that it was a photo, and that's when the Bubba Scrub kind of came through. And to me, I was just doing it. Like I didn't even know what to call it, or it wasn't even something that came on my radar. It's like just jumping another jump. But I did it because it was a way to like go faster in the air. And on Supercross tracks and certain things, like you can only go so fast around corners and through the whoops. So I figured out a different way to save time in the air. And that's kind of how it started, like necessity. Yeah, that's kids. Different interviews these days. No, the Bub Scrub, I didn't even have a name for it. Is that too loud? Yeah, the Bubba Scrub, like it wasn't anything that I thought about doing. It just happened. And like I said, for when people caught on to it in 2003, I was already doing it for a year. But like to me, it was like part of riding.
Natural movement.
Yeah, it was a natural movement for the Scrub. Was a natural movement for me. Again, I did it because to make time up in the air, never thinking that it was actually going to be a technique thing and change the way people ride motorcycles now. Yeah, in 2003 at Budds Creek, they caught that one on camera, but to be honest with you, I don't even really remember scrubbing over that jump. Like it was, again, it was so natural. There was one time I scrubbed, and I think it was right when I was behind Langston in the second moto, but the photo that they got, like I couldn't even tell you, like that was probably every lap thing. It was like hitting corners. Some of the ones before that, 2002 Millville, I passed Chad Reed twice, back to back in the same laps. I know you're gonna hate that, but that was a scrub. But they didn't even say anything about it. So it was like a year later they caught it in Budds Creek. Yeah, Unadilla 2002. Yeah, I mean, I feel like me and Chad, we kind of like got a decent relationship right now. So I don't really want to bring that part back up, but since you asked, I'll explain it. Yeah, I mean, he was riding good that year. No, he was the biggest threat. And at that time, I had like a pretty decent points lead. I gave up a couple races. My bike blew up, and he won a couple races. and I just didn't like his attitude on how he was talking about he could beat me. So I was feeling good that race, and I was out front. We started 1-2, and I pulled away from him, so I didn't think that was good enough. So I slowed down and waited for him, and then passed him again. It was rude. It was rude, but it happened. So it happened. Seems like I had signed my deal with Yamaha. Kawasaki decided not to re-up me that year before we went into it. They thought I was kind of done. So it actually, like that season, even though it was the most dominant season I probably had racing, it was tough. You know, going back to the team, knowing that I'm going somewhere else. So it wasn't fun at all. And then when you celebrate with guys, it's kind of hard to celebrate. It's like, you know, your girlfriend, you're like, you want to go on one more date before we break up? You know, I know you're seeing another guy. That's how it felt all year. But I give the guys credit. Like, I mean, we all did our job. We was professional. Some of us was. Some of us wasn't. But I felt like the suspension guys, myself, and a couple of the guys, they worked. They did everything like they would if I was staying there. So I appreciated that. But it was just awkward. So season was great. Obviously, I went 24-0, but it's just a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I was glad to be done with it. Why do I think they thought that I was done? I don't know. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I think it was more, I didn't really get along with the team manager that well. Since he came in, we just never really saw eye to eye. And I don't know, maybe it was a power struggle, but I think it was more the things that he was saying towards the Kawasaki that I didn't want to be there, things like that. So I don't think it came from up from top, but when you have the guys that speaking to those guys all the time, like it you know, that's their word. So yeah, I was bummed. I mean, I wanted to stay there. I've been there my whole life, so I wanted to finish my career out there. So but yeah, they moved on, and like I said, it's tough when you go into the season already knowing that, like, well, I'm not gonna be here, and then you just start mentally thinking about other things. So it was tough. Yeah, Ricky Carmichael, he was great. I felt like the years that I raced him, I mean, I'm not making excuses. I mean, the Goot was just good. But the first year I was on that two-stroke, and he was on that 450, and that was a struggle. And I think, like, with, I can hear it coming up right now. Yeah, I did land on Ricky. That's because that sorry ass two-stroke I was riding, that thing was a pig. Yeah, but in 2005, racing Ricky outdoors, screaming kids in the background. Yeah, in 2005, racing Ricky outdoors is probably one of those moments, like, in my career where I feel like it actually hurt me mentally, because I just came off of dominating the 125, like, you know, winning everything from the time I can remember. An amateur, always winning. So when I got up there and started racing him, it wasn't like it wasn't all about, like, speed. Like I didn't have the talent to beat him. I didn't have the motorcycle, and I thought, like, cocky 18-year-old kid, like, man, I'll outride this thing. You know, I've been beating all these guys. I was on the two-stroke the year before on the 125 racing for 250Fs. Boy, I had something coming for me. I remember the dude knocked me down going up a hill because he blew past me. I tried cutting him off, and he just, like, motored right past me. He knocked me down at High Point. And I was crashing so much, trying to override the thing, going down the hill, doing Mach 3, because I knew I'll lose 2 seconds at least going up a hill. And but mentally, like, like I said, it was the first time I ever, like, gotten beaten, like, over that. So it took me a minute to get over that. And then the following year, I got a 450. It was called a 450, but that thing was bad too. And then I beat him the first race. I was winning the second race and got knocked out. Cross jumped at high point, and then bike blew up the next race. So it was just always something like spiraling, like just things like that, racing him. So I honestly, I never really felt like I had a shot. Like never actually raced Ricky outdoors. You know, two-stroked and injuries, and then 2007, I was more trying to win the championship. So I would like actually never try to like race him like comfortably. Like a few times we would battle. I would win the first moto, and then the second moto something was happening. I remember in Budds Creek I got food poisoning in between motos. I was throwing up, just everything. Couldn't drink anything, throwing up everything. Threw up on the gate twice, and led the moto for 27 minutes, and finally like ran out of energy, and he won. And then the last race in Red Boat was the first time I actually was like, all right, I'm gonna race him. And I was winning the race. Won the first moto, was winning the second moto, and fell over in the corner, hit my front brake, fell over in the corner with like 2 laps left. I just broke him. So little things like that, but again, not taking away, like he was, I mean, it's like a train. When he was on it, I mean, he was on it. And but I think in 2009 or 2008, I would smoked his ass. No, we would have had some good races. Like I learned a lot from when I met Eldon. It wasn't a powder donuts and the sugar water. It was actually like Cytomax and granola bar and stuff like that. So my training was on a different level, and bike was a lot better. So, and I was older, so I think a lot of things like changed. But again, Ricky was fun to race, especially in Supercross. I always wanted to beat him in Supercross because I knew it was always talent. His little short legs couldn't go through the whoops, so I would like pass through the whoops, and he never wanted to jump things. He would do it. I give him credit, like he would do it. When he ran into that boat, it was hilarious. I crashed the next lap. So it was just things like that. But he was fun. He was clean. We had a little run in at Washougal one time. He knocked me off the track. I tried breaking his leg. And a couple little things like that. But besides that, we were fun. It was good. Yeah, overall wins in Supercross. I think my whole career is always, it's always been about winning. Like it's always about winning. I mean, my dad always pushed me to be the best, win. So I think like I got caught into winning. Like I'd rather win than win a championship. Like that's how I thought. And the reason I thought that was because from my team, like my mindset, my team's mindset, everybody that I came in contact, the fans, everybody in the industry always expected me to win. Like if there was like Chad Reed or whoever won, they'd be like, "What happened to Bubba? You crashed?" That's how it always was. And so that pressure of always having to like win probably cost me a couple titles because I felt like taking a second or third wasn't like good enough. And when I did, like, I mean, people were actually bummed like on the team. Like nobody really thought to like celebrate. So I think that's where the 72 came. Like that was really like I wanted to go for that goal. And obviously things happened that cost me from not like getting there, but yeah, it was always about winning. It really was. Yeah, my perfect season was, it was tough mentally. It wasn't that hard to do. I mean, I was in like really good shape that year. I was hungry. Bike was good. So as far as actually racing and like winning, it wasn't like the hardest season I had, but it was mentally tough because you get to a point to where you have to start finding things that like motivate yourself. And I got to the point where I was trying to like win by a minute, trying to like set fast lap times, and that kept me like going through the season, like focusing on other things besides going 24-0. I felt like if the bike didn't break, even if I crashed in the first corner, I could have came back and won, but it was just mental. But there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the racing has changed. It has changed. You don't have the is that loud?
You can't hear it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I definitely think racing's changed now. Um, I think it's mentally it's a little bit different. You don't have the like I thought Tomac would and he should smoke all these dudes. Like it shouldn't even be close. Like I remember telling the guys even when I was racing that he was the guy that was gonna come up and like he was the only one I was worried about because he had speed that would separate him from anybody. Like when he was in 250F class. But then I saw like the weakness of him, and he was mental. Like, and that's not a knock on the guys. I mean, he's one of the fastest guy I ever seen ride a motorcycle. Um, but then like he would win a race and then finish like ninth the next race. And when it came down to like titles, I just saw him like just struggle with that. So definitely when I feel like me, Ricky, I mean, Chad Reed was a tough cookie. Like, he was the guy to get beat 99 times, win one, and he was best everything. Like, and it takes a special person to get beat that many times and be like, I'm still, like, there. I don't know how he did it. I struggled my last year. I didn't even want to race, like, and that was, I couldn't win races. So he did it. So he was really tough. Ryan Villapoto was that way. He was strong mentally, but it seems like that was the last person that was like, you know what, I'll die trying to win this race. And you had Dungy. Dungy was solid, like, and I believe like when I say mental, I don't mean like these guys aren't tough or like aren't good. I just mean like the attitude is like they're okay with like, all right, like I'll win one or two races and win a title. Like that wasn't good enough when I raced. I mean, even Ricky wasn't that way. He wanted to win. Like the times that he would get second place 6 races in a row, he would just say it was by championship, but he wanted to win. Like, I mean, I would see him in the pits and all that stuff. Like he wanted to win races. So I just think it's definitely changed. I think that's why you see like I think Jason Anderson won the title last year. I think he has a mentality of like I want to win. Maybe he doesn't have the talent of Eli or certain things like that, but I mean he took those guys and handed to him. He was the title. So for sure it's changed. It makes it good for a fan. Like hey, like there's people that's gonna win races every week, but in reality, when I watch the races, like I don't understand why Tomac doesn't win every single race. I don't get it. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree partly with what you said. Like for sure, spot on with the mentality. But I think all those guys want to win. It's just like I believe it's how you raise. Honestly, if you raise spoon fed, and like I think it's a different age with social media, all these different things. I think kids are raised different. So the hunger, like if I don't win this race, we don't eat. That's not out there anymore. And I believe like when you're young kids, like I mean they're like factory at like PW ages. Like you got factory teams and all the Honda, Suzuki, like they all have a factory amateur program. So I just believe like it's a whole different mentality like coming up from the amateur. And when you have that, obviously you get more things. Not to say you don't earn it, it's just a whole different mentality. So I think that's probably what happens to like the guys and going racing. I don't think it's any more or less boring. Maybe you don't have the guys jumping the quad, so as a fan, I can see what you're saying, but I believe like the racing is good. I just don't think you have the personalities. I don't think the guys aren't jumping quads. So if you don't have a personality, then you have to have somebody jumping something, doing something different. And if you don't have both of those, then you just have pure racing. And I think maybe that turns off the regular fan that just turns it on and wants to see something. But for me as a racer, and I'm a fan of the sport, I've watched every single race basically for the last 3 years, and I haven't been there. I watch every single practice. I watch everything. I'm a fan of racing, and so I watch it either way. But I see what you're saying. I just think it's a little bit different. Coming out of Haines City, selling drugs, and yeah, I mean, I think I think you become who you're around. You know, if you hang around pigs, you become a pig. And fortunately for me, like my parents were really strict. They, you know, I was raised in the ghetto. We didn't have money, but my parents really, they pushed me a lot on racing, and it was always like I didn't have time to hang out with like friends and do certain things. So I think my childhood was I was always focused on like racing, and then when you fall in love with it, then that's all you want to do. But I didn't hang out on the corner with certain kids. I had friends that sold drugs. I had friends that was in and out of trouble, fighting all the time. I was just never a part of that because I didn't want my racing career or racing to be taken away from me. And for sure, like grades and all the stuff in school, like my parents would take away the one thing I loved if I was bad in school and I was racing. So I stayed away from that. But for sure, like being around that and um, it made me hungry. It made me have to earn everything I had. You know, I don't know if people know, but like the way I got my property was through Fox Racing back in the day. Like instead of getting the salary, they paid for my property. That's how it started a compound. So that's how it started. And I'm grateful to this day for it because it took my career to a whole different level. When you had, instead of driving an hour, 2 hours to go practice, it was right there. We lived in a motorhome for 9 months while we had a house. Same motorhome, we take that thing to the race. So it's a traveling house. But yeah, that's how it became the compound was through there. And then obviously we expanded on that. But yeah, it's just different ages now. You got tracks everywhere. Every team seems like they got their own factory facility, so it's the different mindset on kids, and I think ultimately they're actually there's more good racers now than it was back when I came up. More like competition, so I don't know if they're better, but there's a lot more good riders, and so as a fan, it makes it interesting as I guess a genuine fan of the sport. So. Yeah, I mean the Fox thing. I don't remember exactly how it went down. I remember signing I think it was like a 5-year deal, and the first I don't know year, 2 years of what they paid me, it was going in. That's how we got the land. So it was in my contract that obviously I had to buy the land. You spend it in investments, and so we got the land, but to survive and eat, I had to win races, so that's how we could afford to build the actual racetrack. But back then, land was cheap, man. I think we bought 30 acres for like 50 or 60 grand. Now you probably can buy that 5 million or something like that. So yeah, that's how we got the land. And it's funny that people, when they see that, they always think I'm rich. Like, oh, you got this like place and like all that. So they think my childhood, like I had money. No, that's not the case. Fox basically put money into their investment. I was like an investment property. Yeah, I mean, I definitely say it is something about how you was raised, and I mean, as a kid, hell yeah, like I trade spots. Like I don't want to be like starving or things like that. And we wasn't starving, but we were broke, you know, like, I mean, it wasn't Christmas time, Christmas, birthday, happy Thanksgiving, all that stuff. It was one present, you know, so um, it's, that's how it was. But that, again, that's how it made me. But for sure, not only racing, any sport, like you look at the top guys in every sport, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Williams Simpson, myself, Ricky Carmichael, everybody, like it's some kind of struggles from a childhood. Like you gotta want it. And I think like for me, like with my kids, like that's probably the one thing that like I have nightmares about, having a soft ass kid, like for reals. And I think like now it's the dad talking. I tell her all the time, like, why do we need this stuff? Like, they got to earn it. I know they're 6 months and 2 years old, but one should be walking and the other should be working. Like, that's how I see it. And like I get a world of my kids, but that like I think it's gonna be hard when they're in school and then they figure out who their dad was and then they in this big house. You got money, all this stuff. Like, yeah. So that's a different conversation. But yeah, I got to make sure my kids are raised like they know what a dollar is. They got to know what a dollar is. Otherwise, life's gonna be hard for them. Yeah, for sure. Like, being a parent now, and I think every parent knows that. Like, you want to give your kid the childhood that you wish you had. Like, but I think all they need is love and respect. I think that's what every kid needs, and like I wouldn't want to the things I went through in my career and just personally, I wouldn't want my child to go through that, but I would want my child to go through that, if that makes sense. And it's definitely hard to figure out a balance, and I think that's where Mama, she comes in and she, no, it's okay, and I'm like, it's not okay, like, it's pick it up and stuff like that. So hopefully there's some kind of like balance in the midst that works it, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but I love them bastards. My biggest influence, I think it was probably a lot of different people. I used to, like, in the sport, I used to like Jeff Matasevich, Kawasaki #7 at one time. Back then they used to change the numbers all the time, but he was always like a 7th through 9th type of person. Like, that's where he finished in the series. So that was his numbers. But he was cool, like the Chicken. I used to have, my nickname used to be called Baby Chicken back in the day. So he was one of the guys I looked up to. Obviously, Jeremy McGrath's just the style, the 1-800-COLLECT commercials, Showtime, and then, but like Michael Jordan, I used to always look up to those guys because I just felt like I always wanted to be more than just a racer, like a business person, like Jumpman, like Puff Daddy, like to be involved. Like, if you're gonna be involved in the sport, like, just don't be involved as a racer, like give something back. And so I felt like with those, sometimes like racers, as we race, and you get small-minded, and seeing other athletes and what they do, Tiger Woods, you kind of see, you look in the big picture and you see the things that they do back to the community and things like that for the sport. So I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be able to race and have people buy motorcycles or come to a track because they want to be like me. I play golf because I want to be like Tiger Woods. People play basketball because they want to be like LeBron James, and that's what I wanted to do. So it's kind of hard to say one athlete, but those are probably the guys I would say. Yeah, my my TV show, Bubba's World. Yeah, that was interesting. It was it kind of, I think it should have been a lot better than what it came out to. I think the second season was better. I wasn't a partier, so the first season there was a lot of things that they wanted me to do. Like, I had like a lap dance or something. I was at a party. I literally showed up when it was time to film. We knocked it out and I left. So it was always weird because they would play the tease and I would be on the gate, like, for the main event, and I'm like, look up the screen and there's me getting a lap dance, like, up there, and I'm just like, jeez, like, this is stupid. But I did a second season. The second season was a lot better, but you learn a lot about TV shows and all that. You learn how fake it is. But it was good. It was good. It actually took me to a whole different level outside of racing. So if I could do it, I'd do it again. But it was definitely, at that time, I was so focused in racing that I didn't want to do anything to have my sponsors and stuff think that it was taking my mind off of racing. But it was cool. I mean, there's not many people that say I had TV shows, 2 seasons of it. It's cool.